Welcome to our press conference, the press conference of the National Transitional Justice Working Group. For those that may not know me or have forgotten me, my name is Alec Muchadehama. I'm the chairperson of the group. With me is Rose Hansi, a member of the group, and Father Frederick Chiromba, who is also a member of the group. As you know, in the recent past, we have been calling upon the setting up of the National Peace and Reconciliation Commission, and we did that quite a number of times. And we have noted that in the immediate past and currently, there have been some advertisements where members are being called upon for interviews of this particular commission. We appreciate that it has taken long, but we want to appreciate those efforts that at last the commission is about to be set up. And the purpose of this press conference is to enable us to reiterate the qualities of the people who are going to be elected as members of the National Peace and Reconciliation Commission. You notice that when we held our last other press conference, we outlined the minimum standards that we expected these members to hold, and that is what we want to reiterate today. In terms of Section 251, subsection 4 of the Constitution, it is stated that people who are going to be appointed to this commission must have the following qualities: integrity, knowledge and understanding, and experience in mediation, conciliation, conflict prevention and management, post-conflict reconciliation and peace building. And we want to add that in addition to these, there must be also guidelines which are going to guide those that are going to interview these people in terms of what else to look at from the interviewees, so that apart from the generalizations which are in Section 251 of the Constitution, there are also other minimum qualities that we think are important for the interviewers to be aware of, so that they take these into account in selecting the appropriate candidates. And we hold that the following are some of the qualities that the interviewers must be on the lookout for. Firstly, these persons must be of unquestionable integrity, in the sense that they must be morally upright, they must not have been involved in scandals, and they must not be of suspicious behavior. Secondly, they must be blameless, in the sense that they must be without spot or blemish. That is to say, their character and reputation must be beyond reproach. Thirdly, we also say that those that interview must take into account that the candidates do not have past records of violation of human rights. So there must be thorough background checks of these candidates to make sure that the prospective commissioners have not been involved in any remotest way with the past violations of human rights, or to have been associated with organizations that have sponsored or supported violation of human rights. Fourthly, we also want these people to have a demonstrable commitment and leadership to the cause of human rights, conflict, transformation, conciliation, and mediation. So there must be some demonstrable commitment that these people hold in order for them to qualify as commissioners for the National Peace and Reconciliation Commission. Fifthly, we also say that those that are to make it to the commission, and during the interviews, the interviewers must be on the lookout to make sure that there is no conflict of interest for the interviewees. So that, for example, if a person is associated with an organization that has got a conflict with what the commission stands for, that particular person must be disqualified. We are also saying that the person must be a unifying person and not to be a divisive figure. They must be inspire confidence in all the stakeholders, but especially to the victims of past violations. So those are some of the minimum qualities that we want the interviewers to take into account when selecting the appropriate candidates. And regarding the process, we note that it has come almost a year after the calling of names to this commission. But however, we note that at least there has been this move towards operationalizing this commission. And it is our hope that from henceforth things will actually move at a faster pace so that the process is completed. What we have seen in the press is actually only a list of names. We think that it would have been ideal if there had been some summaries of these people's resumes, and at least a summary of what each of these candidates stand for and what their background is, so that the process is as transparent and as open and as informative as members of the public would expect. And my understanding is that these interviews may actually be held at Parliament. I think that is a restricted area, and it would have been better if these interviews are held at a more accessible place, like what the Judicial Service Commission did with the interview of judges. They held it in Munumutapa, which was, in my view, in a more accessible area. So this is what we expect the process also to entail. And we also note with concern that there has been very little public information about the process itself in terms of what is happening. So what we are urging the interviewers to do is to make it more public, because so far it has just been restricted to the mainstream print media, the Herald and other newspapers. We are of the view that there should be more publicity in other media, community newspapers, church newsletters, the television, and all other media that is accessible to the members of the public. And in addition to that, we also note that the publicity and the list of names in the process has also been limited to only one language. It is our view that the issues around what is happening in regard to this commission must be disseminated throughout in all the official languages, which are 16 in terms of Section 6 of the Constitution. So there must also be publicity around what is happening to this commission in all these languages, Ndebele, Shona, Kalanga, and all the languages that are listed in terms of Section 16 of the Constitution. And apart from that, particularly the national broadcaster must also be able to keep regular updates of what is happening in regard to the National Peace and Reconciliation Commission, including broadcasting the interviews themselves, so that at least members of the public are aware of who is being interviewed, how they are faring, so that the panel of public interviewers is also able to make its own judgment in regard to the suitability of those that may eventually be appointed to this commission. And lastly, we want to thank all the stakeholders for taking an active part in this process and trying to monitor what is happening in regard to this particular commission. And I have in mind members of the public, civil society organizations, the media, and everyone else. Lastly, we want to reiterate again our call to Parliament to pass the enabling legislation to enable the NPRC to be operationalized as and when it is set. And thank you very much for your attendance, and that is the end of our press conference. I would call upon anyone who has questions, comments, to make them at this point. Thank you very much.
All right. You highlighted that there was need for a profile on the shortlisted candidates. From shortlisted candidates, how satisfied are you with the people we have shortlisted?
That is exactly my point. That all what we have are names. We do not know their background. We do not have their resumes. All I was able to do was to isolate some of the names who I know, of people who I know. But I doubt that members of the public are quite aware as to how this person has been shortlisted, or if they have been shortlisted, what their background is, what their qualifications are, what their suitability is in terms of what is required in terms of section 251 subsection 4, and those minimum qualities that we have pointed out. And this is why we were saying that it is better that the interviewers publicize some brief resumes of those people who have been shortlisted, so that people know who is going to be interviewed, and whether eventually they are the kind of people who you want to see in the kind of commission. Any other questions? April, what is your question?
That there is a list of names, and but we also know that the Minister of the Minister of Finance has made a call. That we need to think about amending our constitution. In particular, that we need to consider taking away some of these commissions because it's too expensive, for the country to maintain all these commissions. We don't have money. I don't know, what you think. Are you telling us that you are satisfied that this process of publicizing the nominees and inviting them to interviews is a genuine indication that we are going to set up this commission and we are going to ensure that it's fully consummated and fully empowered to be able to do its work financially and otherwise? When we already hear calls from government saying that we need to amend the constitution. So where are we exactly?
Thank you, Abel. In regard to those calls, I think the group issued a statement saying that it would be most unfortunate if what the minister was saying were to see the light of the day. I want to believe that it was merely politicking, because these commissions are constitutional commissions, and the process of advertising now and calling for the days of interviews, to me, is indicative that these commissions are about to be set up. So, the group is a forward-looking group, and we have no reason to disbelieve that the interviews are going to be genuine, and they are a process towards the constitution of the commission itself. As regards funding, I want to believe that funds eventually will be available, and if there is an act that operationalizes these commissions, there will be no reason for the government to say that they do not have money. It is the duty of government through the Ministry of Finance to raise funds for any commission that is constitutionally established. So rather than him wishing certain commissions away or certain amendments to the Constitution, he would rather concentrate his efforts in looking for funding and making sure that these commissions are established in terms of the Constitution.
But democracy is expensive, so cheap.
Yeah, you can actually add that as well. Page says is that the minister knows it, or should know that democracy is expensive.
Do we know where the names came from? That's my first question. My second question, next week it will be the International Day on the right to truth. I don't know whether the working group has a comment or any comment to make about the case of Itai Zamara, as far as the right to truth is concerned. Those are my two questions.
Maybe as a follow-up, Rose, what's happening at the police reporting to you? I think the court ruling was saying they're supposed to report to you.
I will give this opportunity to Father Frederick Chimamba to answer the first question, and Rose will attempt the second question.
Yes, as for the names, I remember last year in 2014 that various organizations were invited to submit possible candidates for the National Peace and Reconciliation Commission. I know from the side of the churches that we were invited to submit names, and we did. And we are glad that some of the names actually appear on the short list. You also talked about the International Day of Truth next week. It's one of the aspects that our organization will be promoting. And of course, one example was mentioned, but we are saying there are various other names, various other truths that need to be established. And that day is actually important for all of us to observe, and also really to work on promoting truth in our nation.
Thank you. With regards to the Itai Zamara case, as you are aware, there was a court order that was issued by the High Court of Zimbabwe on 13 March to the effect that the police must work with the lawyers of the victim. And to date, we do not have any tangible information on his whereabouts. We are still waiting to get information from the police, hoping that they'll be able to locate him. And we believe that the police they have all the capacity to do their work as they have done in the past. They have a track record of doing their work very well. And we hope in this case they'll do their work very well and be able to lead us to where Itai Zamara is.
The last question. I think the last question has been asked already by Abel. So with that, I would want to sincerely thank you very much for coming at short notice. And as usual, we shall be meeting again. And as the media you are our watchdog regarding this process. We hope you will do your job as well. Thank you very much for coming.